This is an exciting afternoon. It's a pleasure, and it's just plain fun. You're in for a marvelous, marvelous read. It's the most beautiful book that I've read in, I can't remember when. Awesome. And Megan's, who's behind the till right now, started reading the book yesterday, and she was about 10 pages in. She said, "This is so beautiful." She said, "It makes me feel like the colors in the window." So I'm going to turn the floor over to Kathy, and we'll have a good time. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you all very much for coming. I'm just really thrilled to see so many people here on a Sunday snowy afternoon, so thank you. This book started about 3 years ago after I finished Lost. I was looking for something that I thought would be small and short to do. So I went into my computer looking around for some writing I had done, and I found quite a few, a large file on India that I had written in 1985. And it was just sitting there. It had been carried along from computer to computer. And I looked at it and I thought, well, maybe there's something in here I can do with it, because there was a girl and there was a guy and there was India. So I started pulling phrases and images and metaphors and all kinds of things just out of this very raw material. And because it was written pretty much stream of consciousness, it had no paragraphs, no punctuation. And I pulled it all out and I just kind of put it in a file. And then I just liked it like that. And that's why the book ended up being a verse novel as opposed to a regular novel. So if anyone's wondering why I chose to do it, that's why. It just seemed part of the original material and I didn't want to change it. So the book is set in 1984 in India, and I was in Asia at that time. And the book the narrative circles around the assassination of Indira Gandhi. And that was on October 31st, 1984. And I was in Nepal actually when that happened. And of course there was no internet then, so we didn't have very up-to-date news, but we did get news from the newspaper and from travelers who were crossing into Nepal. And the stories we heard were horrendous. And it really affected me, and I never forgot about it. And it also frightened me a great deal, and I didn't want to go back into India at all after that. But I had a ticket out of Bombay, and there was no other choice. So I did go back in and kind of hated the country for a couple of weeks, and was really quite terrified that there would be something else that would blow up, and I might find myself in the middle of it. But it didn't happen, and I fell in love with the country. And I still have a love affair with this country. So the book is partly my love story to India as well. So I'm going to read from the beginning. And what I've noticed is the book's really heavy. And so if I sit down, that's why. Because when I was practicing, I found myself doing this with it. So. Maya's Diary. I'll read each poem has a heading, and I'll read those as well. A brand new diary. How to begin? Click. How to begin? Click, click, click. I like the sound of a ballpoint pen. Click, 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 click. I'll start with the date. October 28th, 1984. Now the place. Floating in air over ice. 37,000 feet, the pilot said. But where exactly? What latitude and longitude? Is it Canada or Greenland that fell away like a great sinking heart? Is that a rising sun or a setting one? The golden rays cut loose from India's plains. Where am I really? Nowhere, I guess. Somewhere between an old life and a new. Salutation. Every diary needs one. A word of greeting to begin it all. The gentle endearment. Dear. Now a name for the one who will listen. Anne Frank used Kitty. The cat left behind, I once believed. I was wrong. It was just a name. I could use Smoke, my real cat left behind, but his eyes are too pale. You can't confide to yellow irises and patchy fur. Besides, the cat likes to carry the dead in his mouth. Just a month ago, I might have used Helen, my only friend. Helen of Elsinore, we used to joke, the face that launched 1,000 tractors. But even in the country, the beautiful never understand the lonely. I think of Michael. I can't stop myself. Back row Michael, sitting behind me in homeroom, blue eyes, blonde hair, perfect white teeth gnawing on his lower lip. Angelic. I imagine the entry. Dear Michael, I am flying and thinking of you. This is what I remember. You took my braid and wrapped it around your neck like a black satin ribbon. You pulled my face to your cheek. You breathed on me, whispering, "Who are you?" When you bit my hair, I thought I'd die. Pleasure, shame, your lips on me. But you can't address a boy in a diary, even if you like him. There's a black snake around my neck, Michael shouted. It's choking me. Everyone in the hallway looked, laughed. Michael pretended to wrestle with my braid until I slipped and fell on top of him, my sorry unraveling like I was coming apart. No, you can't address a boy, even if you think you love him, and especially if he loves someone else. Dear Diary, this remains the simple choice, the anonymous confidant, clear and to the point. But then, what's the point of private words lingering on the page undirected? There must be a listener. The truest friend, Anne had insisted. Yes, a friend, and now I know. I write the letter M, 4 strokes with the pen, 2 peaks, a mountain of a letter. The letter A follows, lowercase, the necessary vowel. And then I mean to write a T, and then a second A perfectly balanced word for my longing, Mata, the name I call my mother. But my hand slips, or is it my mind? The pen dips on the page, ink fading with a sudden upturned sweep of a Y, and then a second A appears, Maya, the name that only my mother calls me. The pen continues to move across the empty page, and I hear my mother's voice. Remember, remember that I love you. Ghost. Can the dead really speak? Through the hand and the pen of the living? A mother's voice floats in from the edge of the world. A daughter hears the whispers. No one wants to be forgotten, not the dead or the living. I loved you too, Mata, but why did you do what you did? Northern Lights. The pilot steers along ribbons of light, green polar flames rippling in the dark, long silken scarves floating on the air. It's like watching the wind on fire, pulsing. Bapu sleeps beside me. His face is peaceful for the first time in weeks. Perhaps he's dreaming this aurora borealis into being, streams of wedding garlands waving like underwater reeds, guests dancing. My father's yellow turban rests on his knee, a closed lotus blossom my mother had once described it, her hands tracing the folds, looking for its beginning and its end. I don't often see my father's hair uncovered, only on Saturday mornings when Mata washed his belief in the bathroom sink. The long black river flowing from his head, as long as his faith. I caught glimpses of the tender ritual when I passed down the hall, Bapu in a chair leaning back against the white porcelain, my mother's hands pouring water over the brow, the crown behind the ears. He smiles with the anointment. He laughs when the water trickles down his neck. And then she combs, pulling the wide teeth against the scalp, pouring oil until the strands are thick and iridescent. Over and over, Mata draws a wooden comb through my father's hair, his measured self.